Hi, thank you for watching Teaching Character Traits. My name is Jackie Bewick. I'm a 5th grade language arts teacher. I use this activity to help my students identify what character traits were, and they were able to describe character traits as a description of the character by describing their physical appearance, their personality, some other things, including the interactions with other characters in the story. We also use this activity to identify the character's perspective. To sympathize with the characters, we used adjectives, and ultimately we were hoping that this activity would help our students develop and analyze characters for their own personal narratives. This activity meets a couple of different standards, including analyzing characters over the course of a text, assessing their point of view, and writing narratives and developing real characters that were relatable. Are you tired of reading the same types of characters over and over again in your students' writing? Can your students tell you what makes a book interesting but can't apply that to their own writing? Do you wish that your students would make stronger connections to the text? Well, I did, so my 5th grade team and I sat down and came up with this lesson. We used this worksheet first to help our students understand how authors can bring a character to life, and we said that they can do that by describing the physical appearance of the characters, describing what the character does, what they say, or how they behave, and lastly by interacting with other characters in the story. And we really used the story because of Mr. Terrap to help us with this, because Mr. Terrap played such a huge role in the story, but never had a chapter all of his own to share his perspectives. So the way that we learned about Mr. Terrap was based on what other people in the story say about him and also how he gets along with the other characters in the book. We did a character study on the book because of Mr. Terrap. The first couple of questions were pretty easy for the students to do on their own, but we did have to talk about flat and round characters and how a flat character will stay the same throughout the course of the text and how a round character will continue to change. And number 4, describing the characters using these character traits was pretty easy for the students. However, my students found it fun to continue trying to name common character traits, so we kept a list in our classroom, not including anything that was on this worksheet here, but just different things that they were able to brainstorm. I use this worksheet as another activity for our students to help them organize their ideas and help them develop their characters. We did one of these together as a whole group where we described one of the characters from the book because of Mr. Terrap. Once they folded the papers on the outside, they colored in and drew some things to describe the outward appearance of the character, and then they had to write 5 words describing the character. When they opened up the worksheet again, on the inside where it was blank, they had to write character traits that were not as easily observable, and they got that either by interpreting what the character was saying in the story, how the character was acting, some things that the author might have said outright. And then as homework, they had to create, since they were writing personal narratives, they had to create one of these on themselves. And they had to describe their outward appearance and then some things that made them who they were by describing some of their character traits that were not as easily observable. And then we played a fun game with it where the students had to guess who was who, and our students had a really great time doing this. Here are some student samples, but these are the ones based off of the book because of Mr. Terrap. This student described Jessica. She did a really nice job here describing the character traits of Jessica. These were things that were either observed or things that were said about her throughout the course of the story. This one is supposed to describe Alexia, sassy, she was a bully, she was mean, she was disrespectful, and we used this example to talk again about the difference between flat and round characters and how Alexia started out one way, but throughout the course of the story really changed her tune. I believe this one was supposed to describe Peter. Kind of helpful. He was mean, he was bad, and again, this we used to describe a round character, somebody who changed over the course of the time. And lastly, this was a student's interpretation of what Mr. Terrap looked like. And we did have to have a talk that, when we're reading, we don't always see the same thing that another reader would see. So we did have to talk about internalizing something and making connections to the text and really checking for understanding. Even though Mr. Terrap may not have looked like this to everybody, there were some things that we were able to all agree on. He was kind, he was funny, he was forgiving, he was a wrestler, he was a champion. So because of Mr. Tarob's really assisted in this lesson, but I really do think that you could use any book for this. Thank you again for watching. If you'd like copies of any of these templates, please email me, and thanks again.